Hello, guys, and welcome to a new episode of the F1 show. As today I'm gonna talk about, we're gonna preview the United States Grand Prix or the Austin Grand Prix for this weekend, the sprint and also the race. As we're getting closer to the season, to the end of the season, with 6 races to go, 3 sprints, everything is at stake with the World Drivers' Championship still going on. The constructors is already done. McLaren have won it very comfortably. Although there's still the fight for the P2 between Mercedes, Ferrari, and Red Bull, and there's a fight for the World Drivers' Championship, which is more important, of course, between Oscar Piastri, Lando Norris, and you could say Max Verstappen if you want to put him in that fight. But it's going to be exciting end to the season. I'm looking forward to how it's going to go, how it's going to end. And yeah, obviously there's going to be a winner and there's going to be a loser, but I'm interested to see how this title race for the Drivers' Championship is going to end. But let's start with the Grand Prix. Let's start with previewing the Grand Prix. If you look at, obviously, the last race, Mercedes were fantastic. They were brilliant in Singapore. Russell winning very, very comfortably. There's some rumors, though, that there's a bit of a split, according to Ralph Schumacher, who sometimes I don't believe everything from what he says, because sometimes he gets things wrong. But he says there's a bit of a split between Toto. There was a tension and split between Toto Wolff and George Russell with regards to the contract talks. And there's also another rumor that George Russell sees Toto Wolff's interest in Max Verstappen as an insult. And listen, I've talked for many, many times and for many, many weeks and many, many months about this contract situation. And yes, I understand Toto wants Verstappen, but like, be happy with what you have. You've got a very good lineup. You've got George Russell, who's been performing fantastically well this season. I don't think he's made any. He's not made many mistakes. Last season, he proved that he can do well, particularly in the second half of the season. He was up there with the best drivers alongside Verstappen, etc. And this season, you could say he's been the best driver for Formula One this season. You could say that. Yes, you could say Oscar has been very, very good, but you could also say Oscar had a very good car, which kind of helps. But I think in terms of performing within the limits of the car and how he's able to maximize it, and in terms of circumstances, he's coped with it really, really well. He had problems with illness in Baku, and he finished second. There's some races where he should never been in the podium, and he still somehow got in the podium. Like, I remember Hungary, Australia, not making mistakes, and he's been fantastic this season. So, like, I think he's showing this season that he can be a world champion in the future. He can be a world champion. There's absolutely no doubt about it. He's showing that he has that world championship material. 2 years ago, I felt like he was making too many mistakes, but now I feel like he's, as he said in the press conference, he's more complete. And I agree. I feel like he's not making those unnecessary mistakes that he was making 2 years ago, and he's more calm, more composed, driving really well. Qualifying, obviously, we all know how good he is, and the race pace he's improved, and he's very good at it. And he can defend really well and can manage the tires really, really well, as he showed in Belgium 2024, even though he got disqualified at the end. So I think he's shown that he can do it. And Kimi Antonelli is a future great prospect. He's a long-term investment, as Toto Wolff said. Like Toto Wolff should be happy with what he has. Not everybody is gonna sign Max Verstappen. Not everybody's gonna take to capitalize on the chance of signing Max Verstappen. Just be happy with what you have. And what if, I know those are ifs and buts and maybes, but what if they bring Verstappen and then the year that they bring Verstappen, the first year, they don't have a championship winning car? So, like, be happy with what you have. Be like, the drive line is very, very good. And listen, of course, Verstappen is probably one of the greatest drivers in history of Formula One. He is an incredible driver, but be happy with what you have. Why would you change that? Why would you change that? And yes, listen, if Toto can get Verstappen, and let's say George leaves, like he has had talks with the other teams, okay, fine. And George, said George said that he wants to stay at Mercedes. He clearly wants to stay at Mercedes. He doesn't want to leave. If he wants to leave, then okay, but he wants to stay. So why why, like, and Max Verstappen, he's confirmed that he's going to stay at Red Bull for 2026. So I don't understand Toto's obsession. Yes, I understand maybe you may want to give him a 1 year contract, a 2 year contract, but at the same time, because of Verstappen's interest, and Verstappen might leave in, let's say, in 2020, after 2026, but like, be happy with what you have. That's my feeling. There's also another news that Lewis Hamilton has sent another report to Ferrari. Obviously, Ferrari has had lots of struggles this season. He sent a report to them, and it's the second time I think. I think after before Belgium, I think he sent them a report, but he did it again. He reportedly sent a detailed report to Ferrari's leadership team, outlining the changes he thinks that are required to get Ferrari back to competing for titles. But obviously Ferrari are not going to listen to him, because I remember before Belgium, he gave a report to them, and things has not much changed since then. You can clearly see they don't listen to him, and they're even not happy with what Leclerc said. Leclerc saying is the car is terrible, and they're not happy with what he's saying. Like, Ferrari are so arrogant. Like, what you can clearly see it's not a great environment to work in. It's not a great environment. You clearly see Ferrari don't like a team. They don't look like that Ferrari don't look like a team that is in the same page, that has great chemistry. You look at McLaren. Yes, we joke about the papaya rules and all that kind of stuff, but they have a very good team environment. They have a very good, there's a good relationship between the engineers, the drivers, etc. It's a good environment. It's a place that everybody would like to work in. At Ferrari, it's like, it's toxic, if you want to say that. It's toxic, and not toxic, but it's not a good environment. It's an inconsistent environment. So listen, Lewis Hamilton, I understand, let's say, he wants to win. He wants to win with Ferrari. He wants to get back to winning, because he's a guy that wants to win. He doesn't want to be only Formula 1 and that's it. He wants to compete again. But at the same time, like, are Ferrari gonna really, knowing Ferrari, they're gonna really listen to him? No, because Ferrari are arrogant. They're arrogant. They think like, every year they make excuses. Oh, 1 year is the driver's fault. Next year is the car's fault. 1 year is the team principal's fault. I wouldn't be surprised next season they're not great, and then they sack Fred Vasseur, or they remove one of the drivers, Leclerc or Hamilton, because, like, you look at other teams. You look at Mercedes, they have stability, right? They've had stability. That's why they've won lots of trophies in the last 15, 20 years. Okay? Since 2008, sorry. 2008. Look at Mercedes, they've had stability with Toto Wolff. Red Bull, stability with Christian Horner until this year. McLaren, they've had some problems obviously with the Honda engine, but they've managed to recover, and they brought in, like, leadership like Zach Brown, Andreas Seidl, and then Andreas Seidl replaced him, and they brought in good people in to work in the engineering team, and then they have the drivers who have good chemistry between them. Yes, obviously it's gonna probably boil over at some point, because obviously it's fighting for it has already boiled over Singapore, but it could boil over more and more now, because it's the fight for the world championship. But they have a good chemistry. They have a good team and environment. They've had stability as well. That's why those three teams have won since 2008 lots of trophies, or championships. Sorry, Red Bull, McLaren, Mercedes, stability. With Ferrari, every 3-4 years they change team principle. They change team principle after team principle after team principle after team principle after team principle. Every 3-4 years they change the driver. They change the driver. They change the driver. They change the. Every year is the driver. Every year is the car. Every year is the team principle. Like, when the people who was working inside Ferrari, the engineers, the mechanics, the board, the owners, they're gonna take responsibility. When? So, yeah, that's my opinion. But going to this Austin Grand Prix, I think who I think is going to look fast. I think it's predicted to be that it's going to be very, very hot. So that should play to the advantage of McLaren. I don't expect something special from Ferrari. Mercedes, they were fantastic in Singapore, but I'm not sure whether. I don't know if was it a one-off in Singapore, or are they going to continue? Let's see. But I'm not 100% sure. But they were very very good in Singapore. But I want to see. I want to be sure this weekend whether it was it one off in Singapore or actually the fastest teams will be McLaren, for example, and Red Bull. From what I heard, they're gonna bring upgrades for the rest of the season, but not in Austin. Big upgrades. So I think that the fight for the victory. I think McLaren should win the sprint and the race. Um, but obviously, Verstappen could be involved in the fight. Mercedes could be involved in the fight as well. So let's see. I think it could be the victory could be between three teams. I think before Singapore, if you told me who was going to be the victory between, it's going to be two McLaren drivers and Verstappen. But because Mercedes were fantastic in Singapore, and they're driven in a track that is in USA. I know it's different track, Miami to Austin, but they've got sprint pole in Miami, and they got podium. So I think Mercedes could do something. They can, like, if they're not going to win, maybe they could get a podium, a decent podium. So it's going to be very interesting. There's a stat that I was quite amazed to hear about that. I don't know, and it's true, by the way, that Oscar Piastri has finished P2 in all sprint races this year and went to win the subsequent Grand Prix at each of those rounds. Also, another two stats that Max Verstappen has finished P4 in the Grand Prix of every sprint rounds this season, and Lando Norris also has finished P2 in the Grand Prix of every sprint round this season. Um, yeah, I didn't know that. Like, that means Oscar's gonna win. Oscar Piastri is gonna win again. That means Oscar's gonna win again, and Verstappen is gonna be like, yeah, this hope for the championship was over, finishing P4, whatever, 1-2 McLaren. So, and also every those rounds that were sprint weekends was McLaren 1-2, but Oscar Piastri winning. So maybe it could be a good weekend for Oscar Piastri this time, because in last races, yes, he's not been at his best, but he can't. But he still has a very good lead. He's still leading 22 points of Lando Norris. And last three races, Lando Norris has outscored Oscar Piastri, but he's only outscored him, if I'm not mistaken, 12 points. Yeah, 12 points. So it's not, and especially Lando was 34 points behind. In Singapore, Monza, okay, I understand, but in Baku, that was a great opportunity for Lando to capitalize on Oscar's DNF, and he didn't do that. So yeah, but it's gonna be interesting race. It's on the same track that Verstappen is obviously usually very good in Austin. His worst place finish, by the way, was 2015 when he finished fourth with Toro Rosso, and fourth in 2017 with Red Bull when he had that 5 second time penalty at the end with because of the incident with Kimi Raikkonen. So it's one of his best tracks. You have to say, Verstappen. So I expect him to be very very strong, and for sure a contender for the victory. Two McLaren drivers are very for sure contender for the victory. Lando Norris got pole position in Austin last year. In 2023 he was fantastic. For some periods of the race he was winning the race, but then Verstappen's pace and the Red Bull pace were absolutely unstoppable that year. They catched him and Verstappen won the race in the end. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting. I think how Piastri is going to go about it as well. Is he going to come back to his best? I think he will come back to his best. I think this will be the weekend that he will step up, and especially with what happened in Singapore. Obviously, he was upset. Will that motivation increase in him? Let's see. But he also has to get his elbows out, because Lando got his elbows out in Singapore. But I also expect Oscar to do it as well. And so has Lando as well, because he got his elbows out finally in Singapore. So I expect him to do it again. I expect both, not gloves off. I expect no gloves off approach from both drivers for McLaren. So yeah, but obviously McLaren, Andrea Stella said that they're not going to change the approach. I'm going to close the video now because time is running out.